and welcome to the podcast. My name is Dave. I'm joined as ever by my co-host Ian.
Hello.
We obviously didn't finish off Saturday because there's too much to talk about on Saturday, allegedly. So we are going to continue with some eel milking.
Yes, so after the very sombre affair of Caro's telling, basically there was an opportunity to go to a live eel milking, which is linked to the famed Briggersland Brew.
Right.
I won't say too much about the eel milking itself, simply because so good is it that it's a live performance that you attend, which comes with the warning of, if you are in the front row, you are in danger of being in the splash zone.
Of the milk.
When the eel is milked.
Yes.
And there is indeed a milking of an eel.
Yes.
It's phenomenal. There's basically a live reading. There is a professional milker on hand.
Oh, that's good.
Because you need to have a trained milker for such a dangerous endeavour.
Obviously.
There is Tarek, I think, from the Blind Eye, who of course is the OG eel milker.
Yeah.
And there is Silgor to the side, providing live like backing acoustic music throughout with like ambient sound. Oh, this is absolutely peak shit. The puppetry, the performance, the reading, which was done by a wonderful Varushkin lady, the entire setup in the tent, the ceiling of the tent to ensure that people beyond the confines of the tent would be safe. The fact
so it's dangerous.
Oh, it's dangerous. I mean, an eel milking. I mean, we only had a baby eel milked for. To milk an adult would be far too dangerous to the confines of Anvil. But I say too much.
Right.
If you have the opportunity to attend an eel milking, and you are of the dangerous bent where you must see such a thing, I can say no more than take yourself along and give yourself the opportunity. It was absolutely phenomenal.
It sounds like the perfect thing to after a funeral.
Yes, it was a very different tonal shift.
Yeah.
The captain was standing as doorman.
So you must have had a great time.
I had a wonderful time, and there was another performance from a different group taking place afterwards. So after this, as I say, I really won't go into the eel milking too much, simply because genuinely it really is.
I think
so
you've
good,
already said too much.
Yeah, it's so good. But as we go to leave the splash zone, I head out, and I saunter up. The captain's there at the door, and I approach him. Having given freely of my marmalade that I thought was jam, and my sloe gin, and being edgelit
he
in
must
all
have
my
been
glory.
really pleased to see you.
Well, he said, "Move along, Talis Ashbourne. Another performance is getting ready to come through." Quite brusquely, might I add. So
he is nothing but a professional.
He is a professional, but so basically Talis kind of like gets hurried out of
hurried.
Yes, I would say, and so I kind of I can't remember what I said, but I said something back, like, to the effect of
how dare you,
and then I hurried off to Navarre, all the way saying to myself, "Move along, Talis Ashbourne, indeed," all this kind of stuff. Who does he think he is? And as I'm doing this, people are starting to be like, Talis is quite upset.
Yeah.
What's going on?
They're paying more attention to them when you were murdered.
Yes, and much more attention to me than when I was being murdered. And so I make my way to... I'm very sorry, I can't actually remember which camp I ended up essentially bumping into. Kaylee and a bunch of the other Navachas and friends of mine were there. many people at this point, and basically I was like, I just kind of sat with them, and then I was like, I was just having a chat and a catch up, and I was like, the RP was kind of swirling in my head, and I was like, yeah, move along, Talis Ashbourne is not on. Right, that's not on. So I'm like, I start kind of geeing myself up and being like, ranting about it, and then I'm like, right, this won't stand, I'm going to head over to the Blind Eye. So a bit of time has passed, but me and this gaggle of people, that's the only way I can really describe it.
You had a couple of Chardonnays
at this point. I had been baptised by the splash zone and told to move along, and now I had a few drinks, and I had a posse with me, and there was no way that I would allow myself to be spoken to in such a manner.
Yeah.
We will take a brief, I think, moment away from how this concludes to move to you in Senate, and we'll return to what happened when I got to the Blind Eye.
So boring in comparison.
No, your game's phenomenal, dude. It's very different, but like I'm actually quite jealous of your game.
Evening Senate session. I went to every Senate session, by the way. I just want to make that clear because I'm a good senator.
Mm-hmm. You gave Bung the weekend off.
Yeah. I seconded a motion to construct the Green Watch, which is a very fancy thing that is a high guard thing to help fight the Valorn.
Oh wow! I had heard about this. They funded it. Am I right in that?
They already funded it. It's good to go.
It just needed to be seconded.
It just needed to be fucking ratified in the Senate.
Is this something which does it basically use some of the pilgrims to do it, or is it a separate thing from that? I don't understand very much about it.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. No, but it's. I heard.
Hey,
it was very good.
Listen, I'm a good senator.
Yeah.
I did a thing.
Yeah.
That's
great.
It wasn't even my thing, but I am very happy that I used my second to do it.
I think Travis was quite involved, wasn't he, in the background? I can't remember now.
Well,
I'd heard anyway. I don't know if that's.
I'm happy to have my name on it.
Yeah.
So
good.
A lot of other people put a lot of effort in to make this thing happen.
But when you look at the brass tacks, whose name's on the bill,
I seconded it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I did it.
Kind of like a big deal, really.
Kind of like I did it.
Yeah.
So
officially, you did. The history records will say that you did.
Yeah. And it would be a great thing to run on in the election next year.
Perfect indeed.
So there's this really interesting thing about how we're probably going to go to war with the Grendel. The Grendel are a mighty seafaring nation.
Yes.
Okay. They basically dominate the Bay of
Catazar. Yeah.
Obviously, because Senate has known that we have had 2 years of a peace treaty, that we should not make the mistakes of previous people and build a strong and robust defence against the Grendel all along our coastline.
Yeah.
They haven't done that.
No.
We don't have any fleet capacity.
There is no defence at all as far as I'm aware.
Everything we have, even as like they wanted to build like this chain along like a thing. I think it was in the League.
Yeah.
And it was going to be really good because it would stop ships from travelling up, and it had forts on it, and it was really, really good. We didn't build that.
No, we didn't do anything.
We didn't do that.
No.
We didn't look for alternative ways to build ships in that area. We haven't built a thing that means that we can build fleets really fast in that area. We didn't do any of that.
No.
But there was a big sticking point on we have one road down to the Brass Coast. And if that road gets severed, we have no land border with other parts of the Empire.
Yeah.
In fact, the entirety of the Brass Coast.
Yes.
Which would mean that all tax revenue and everything would not be able to come to the Empire.
Yeah. Devastating. How has it come to this? This is the problem.
No.
There's a bunch of things which...
You got to trust the system and the infinite wisdom of the Senate for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
You know?
Nothing was done.
No. It's much better that we did a thing to make Urizen feel better about, in inverted commas, their sacrifice by giving their territory to the League.
Okay.
These
are very contentious statements.
It's not a sacrifice if you ask for stuff in return, okay? That is not a sacrifice. That is a trade. But basically, we've got fuck all defences on the coastline. We don't have any fleets. And now we're building a road that's going to have forts down it to make sure that the Brass Coast is still part of the Empire. This is the state of things as I see it at the moment.
The Brass Coast is queued up for an absolute whooping, by the way. This is active plot, and I can't say too much, but I think things are going to be...
A little spicy.
But we'll get to that.
We would love a land war.
Yeah.
The Grendel, I don't think, are going to want to do that.
No, I think they're basically, I think, and quote me if I'm wrong on this, pick me up if I'm wrong on this, I think their offer of maintaining peace was essentially, we have the entire coastline.
It was, and bear in mind we gave up, is it Feroz?
Yeah, I think so.
We gave up territory. We tried to negotiate buying that land back.
Yeah.
And they were like, no.
Yeah.
You give us more things or we go to war with you.
Yeah.
We have not done that.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's a bad business.
It's a bad business.
I sure know how to pick them. My reserve character is probably going to be Brass Coast. So if Talus does die, I'll probably be walking into just a burning hellscape.
Okay, we are funding another, I think it's a Wintermark army at the moment.
Yeah.
We're building some more armies. We're very much interested in a land war on the continent.
Yeah.
Let's see how that turns out. It might be genius strategy to give up the Bay of Katazar and all of our trade routes through there.
Yeah.
And allow the Grendel free roam to drop armies anywhere on the coastline.
Right.
Where we'll fight them.
Yeah.
That could be a genius strategy. Or it might not be.
Yes. The problem is, financially the Empire is pressed, militaristically the Empire is pressed. We really need,
No, weirdly, militarily, there's a lot of armies moving around right now. And a lot of them are quite refreshed. But the coastline is huge.
Yeah.
And therefore trying to move around ready for that stuff is quite complicated.
Yes.
I don't know what that means. Military game isn't my thing.
Yeah.
I would like some fleets.
I think the problem is we reached the point where I think because basically all of our naval power got completely wiped out last time we fought the Grendel. Mm-hmm. And I think the problem is, I think this is everyone made the calculation of the time it would take to build up a fleet that would be of any considerable size to compete and not get immediately eradicated by the Grendel was too onerous to be worth it. And the problem is that line of thinking makes sense in and of itself, but when you do that over an extremely long period of time, you're basically saying we will never build a fleet. That I think that's been one of the problems. I think what probably should have happened was we should have brought some actual fortifications on the coast.
So there are fortifications on the coast. There are some fortifications, not fortifications everywhere. Unfortunately, I think this is like a symptom of the Empire generally having significantly lower finances in the Senate.
A lot of this goes back to the Bourse and the way the Bourse functions.
There is, and we both know this, there is huge swaths of money in the private hands. Yeah. Huge amounts. Yeah. Like giant, sloshing amounts of money moving around in private hands. The Empire's in a bit of an oligarchy problem. Yeah. Where individuals have a lot of money and the state doesn't have any, this might prove to be a problem. But we'll find out next time on Empire next year.
So that's the Caraman situation. Here we have the throne vote being pushed to Sunday also as a thing has been said.
So I was pretty revved up for Saturday, and then I think it was declared on the Saturday lunchtime session that the Senate vote was going to be pushed back to...
the throne vote was going to be pushed back.
The throne vote, sorry. Was going to be pushed back to Sunday, where we were going to have it not synod, it's...
Conclave. Yeah.
Where the Hall of Worlds is, they were going to reuse that tent, basically, as a separate area.
Actually worked really well as an area to house it.
Such a good decision.
Yeah.
So I was like, cool, that's fine. That's kind of the end of that bit. What does the next bit on our notes mean, Ian?
Okay, so meanwhile, while all of this is going on, to return to the state of play with the jilted Talis Ashbourne, who is now heading down with, I would say, a group of what began as 5 and now is approaching 20 hangers-on, heading towards the Blind Eye. A mob. And I am in a flap.
Would you describe it as an angry mob?
No, I would describe it as a... It felt like, and this was how I was trying to phrase it, because it's all done in jest, by the way. I've had a chat with the player OC, and we kind of get the vibe of what we're doing. I decided I really wanted to do it like a kind of a... like one of those kind of like teenage things where it's like you pretend that you don't care, right? I don't care. Like, I don't need him, right? I have people coming out left and right who are suitors for me, right? He needs to beg for me to, move along, Talis Ashbourne, indeed. All of this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, Talis really cares. So he's kind of going, I'm like playing this line of like constantly being like, I don't care, who does he think he is, all this kind of stuff. And then as soon as we get close, I'm like flapping around, right? Like all this kind of stuff. And people say, don't flap. And I'm like, okay, play it cool. Okay, and I'm like, all right. And so as we approach, I turn around to everybody in this group that I have, and I'm like, right, battle plan, everyone. And we start hashing out this plan for what we're going to do, which is basically like, we're just going to sort of like, none of them really knew who the captain was. So point 1 was to tell them who the captain was, but it was very dark. And I had consumed a reasonable quantity of alcohol at this time. And could not see the captain clearly in the darkness.
No.
So, but I knew he must be there.
Obviously.
There was songing and libation happening at the Blind Eye, because it's that kind of place. It's a fantastic place to go, by the way. So I am like, okay, first of all, I will point out the captain to you. But I've got to be cool. Everyone has to be playing it cool at all times.
You sound cool.
Yeah. I was very purposely being like... Talis thinks he is being way more cool than he actually is.
Yeah. Kind
of thing. And I like that vibe. I genuinely like being the butt of the joke is hilarious at this point, right? So I do this thing where I sort of turn up and I'm like ignoring him. I see him in the crowd, I'm like, I ignore him, and I'm kind of having a good time talking to everybody else pointedly. And, everybody's like talking about how, they've heard that such and such a person is interested in me, that the various throne candidates have been pursuing me, all of this kind of stuff, right? They're very loudly talking about all these prominent people who are kind of interested in me, and like different people coming up and being like, oh, you might have to leave in half an hour because I hear there's like a table waiting for you at such and such, all this kind of stuff, right? And someone's like, so who is the captain? And I'm like, I can see him quite clearly, but I'm like, okay, he's the person standing next to the pole behind me. And they're like, who? And I turn around very loudly and say, that person, and point at him. And they're like, don't point at him. I'm like, okay, I didn't point at him. I was all this kind of stuff, and I'm flapping around. It was hilarious, dude. It was so funny. Silgor was playing up a storm, loads of songs and stuff. It was just hilarious, like just Bants at the Blind Eye, just playing along with this whole gig, and like this whole idea of like Talis being like, I'm over him, you know what I mean? Like, that's it, you know, like, move along, Talis Ashbourne, indeed, right? It was just so much fun, dude. While all this is going on, I decide that I have to get everybody. This is where the rest of your throne went.
God.
I decided everybody must have a sip of the Bregersland brew. Considering I've just been at the email king, which I've described to everybody at this point, because, like, you know, I'm having a good time. At this point, we're kind of approaching. We've got about another hour of time in, but it's like, you know, it's that kind of vibes, right? I'm like, I'm going to go in and ask the bar staff in the Blind Eye if there is any Bregersland brew left. I know there isn't really any Bregersland brew left, but I figure I might be able to blag some Bregersland brew if they have any left. And they say to me, we don't have any Bregersland brew left. We do have something very special which you can have. And this is the legendary Blood of Bregersland, which is the red variety of the Bregersland brew. And there's very, very little of this available. And I actually prefer the normal Bregersland brew, but
Okay.
this is very tasty.
Okay.
As the Bregersland brew is, actually. I genuinely do recommend it as a drink. So I had to bring this back in my coconut cup. My straw. I've lost my straw at this point.
Oh no.
So
Oh my God.
I come back with my, like, sauntering through the crowd, ignore the captain, with my Blood of Bregersland, which I loudly announce that I have, and and only those of adequate kind of position or whatever will be able to drink it with me. So I go over with my group, and I'm like, right, everybody, I silence the group. And I basically play up this whole thing. You know, we're in the presence of something very special here. Silgor comes over, and Silgor, by the way, is incredible. He just starts playing these little instrumentals all the time, and when he's playing like songs, I do this stuff where like he'll often go into like a little instrumental bit, and I'll just like suddenly say like a dirty little breakdown. And stuff like this. Is so good. I love the guy. He's so amazing. So I announced that we've got some Blood of Bregersland, but I say there is a problem. That I've lost my straw, and thus you must sup from the rim. You must sup from the rim of my coconut. I proclaim very loudly. And so everybody, I'm like pouring from my coconut into people's mouths like this Bregersland brew, and everybody's taking a little sip. It was hilarious. It was so much fun. The night basically progressed at the Blind Eye like that. We are drinking, having fun. Silgor plays some wonderful songs. We play along. I end up actually, me, the captain, and Silgor all like singing "Big Old Boy," which is a great Silgor song in the middle of the Blind Eye. Absolutely phenomenal, peak stuff. I loved it. We just had the best time, dude. We then head off. Basically, things are winding down the Blind Eye, and I'm like, I've only just begun. I'm ready. Let's go. So we, while all this is happening, let's hit over to you in Gin Club, because my night is but young at this stage.
Fuck it. Like, honestly, my night is so boring in comparison. I go to Gin Club.
Gin Club's really good.
I pay my money.
Yeah.
I hit the room.
Yeah.
I am hitting every senator I can speak to and saying, we need a throne.
Yeah.
We need a
Even
throne.
now, gamers gaming.
Always gaming.
Yeah.
Always hustling.
ABC, always be closing.
Yeah. And I see Kiara, who's one of the main candidates.
Yeah.
And the Imperial Magus. I walk over there and I'm like, we need a throne. And they say, well, that might not happen. And I'm like, oh, it's gonna happen. And then they're like, how do you think this is gonna happen? And I explain some of what my plan is.
You actually explained? That's a risky move.
I explained that we are going to have a throne.
Yeah.
The Imperial Magus said that is stupid, or I am stupid.
Right.
And I said, by the end of this weekend, I will have an apology. And we will have a throne.
Oh my gosh, that is absolutely peak, dude.
Yeah.
Fucking good.
I'm going all in.
Yeah. No,
I'm
you
all in.
had this really cool vibe all event, by the way. I loved that, for example, you chose to do the full Senate sessions yourself. I think it really felt like this was the time to do all of the full Senate sessions yourself. I think you needed to be there at all of the different things and do all the things to build up towards this moment. Absolute hats
I
off
had
to
some
you.
magics.
You were gaming hard, dude.
I had some magics that I wanted that Eurozen had that Navarre could benefit from. It's a very active game, so I actually can't talk about that. But Imperial Magus,
Yeah.
I'm coming for my apology and that magic.
Yeah.
Okay? Alright?
Alright, spoilers.
Alright?
Alright, yeah.
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 Okay.
While this is going on.
Oh no, this last line on Saturday is bothering me.
Okay, so we... to cut a long story short of much travelling around, drinking at various different venues, at this point, it's difficult to say who I have with me. A fairly reasonable amount of people. I'm heading off to Dawn.
Fucking degenerates.
Yeah, degenerate people like myself. Head off to Dawn. I've got Tofu with me as well. Awesome people are with me.
Yeah.
Kaylee's with me, but just a bunch of awesome folk. Adam's with me. I mean, it's so good. We head over to Dawn. I think we get a bunch of beverages there. It's a bit blurry at that point, and then we all settle down in the Glory Square, and I'm just chatting shit at this point. I'm really, I'm squeezing all of the juice out of the Telus fucking fruit at this point.
You're upset.
Yeah,
You've had a rough night.
I have.
You've
It's
been
not
jilted.
easy. This is it. And so I'm like, right, the only thing that will elevate us at this time is if we all if we all blow bubbles. And I decided it was time to treat people to a rondology lecture right there.
It's not a rondology. It's a
rondology. You're gonna have to roll those R's.
He wrote it down with
On
at
the list.
least 3 R's, by the way, on the piece of paper.
So this night at this point had progressed to the point where people were actively writing down quotes as I was speaking. And people were saying things like, write that down, this is a good one. And it had got it to ludicrous levels of memery.
Oh my god.
I was basically going around getting everybody to have a go at blowing bubbles and talking to them about the benefits. Like some people, 1 in 3 people don't always get a bubble.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you just need a little bit of time to build up.
It's about confidence.
Yeah, it's about confidence.
Feeling safe.
How you grip the stalk of the bowl maker. Some people take it fully, all in hand.
Yeah.
Other people like a thumb and 2 fingers. Stuff like this, right?
Yeah. I understand.
It all progressed along that kind of line. Some people like to blow bubbles while laying down. Other people like to blow bubbles
Standing up.
Standing up.
Some people might blow bubbles in the shower.
Some people blow bubbles over other people. Some people...
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Like, where... all of this kind of stuff, right? So it was very funny. Going
Some
along...
people will often blow their bubbles in another person's face.
Yes, that...
But you need consent of another person.
Do ask where, like...
hey, I'm not here to judge. Some people love having bubbles blown in their face.
It was hilarious. But I do apologise to the nation of Dawn, for we may have defiled the Glory Square with a rather lively rondology lecture, which was absolutely peak. And I had a phenomenal
going to
time.
now turn the page over.
And we are on to Sunday.
Luckily, no one will listen to that conversation or have to listen to it.
Yes.
So... that's good.
It was good.
Sunday.
Sunday. I came back very late, by the way. So we kick into Sunday, and it begins with the battle.
Yeah. Luckily,
Yeah.
we were going out with the most exciting enemy we have to face in the Empire, the Jotun.
Unless, and I can hear your sarcasm, Dave.
What do you mean?
But if you
I'm
are
not sarcastic.
If you are of the rare girthy number who get to join the Girth Guard and entertain a fine run and throw yourself upon the spears of your enemies style combat of the Girth Guard. So there's basically a philosophy in the Girth Guard, broadly speaking, of we move in, and actually this is very fun to do. It plays out very well. It's actually quite effective at times. It's very simple. Everyone charges, everyone fights until they're all dead or we're all dead. And that's it. Right? Basically. So there's none of this going in and out. There's none of this fiddling about.
I saw you go.
We charge in, we die to a man, and then we go and respawn. And it was fantastic.
I've seen tissue paper have more effect on a wall than that charge had.
Well, the problem was, so I think basically in the previous time they'd done a lot of this, they had various calls, like they had cleaves basically. The way the battle was set up this time, we didn't have any offensive maneuvers.
Okay,
everything we had was...
There was also a giant block behind you.
Yeah.
That just watched you go.
It's fine. To be honest with you, this is the nature of what it is to be a girthy guard, right? To be in the Girth Guard is to run at your enemies and to give them as much of a beating as you can and just get absolutely devastated.
It was a massacre.
Yeah.
And then the big block that was patiently, I will charitably call it patiently waiting.
Yeah.
Waited at least a full minute.
Yeah.
Beyond after all the Girth Guard had massacred and the other unit to their right had been engaged.
Yeah.
And the Imperial forces had bust through that salient.
Yeah.
And had started to surround and flank the entire line.
Yeah.
Decided that then,
that was the
and
moment.
only then, was the time
to strike.
And it was this beautiful moment where they moved forward, started charging, then realised that they had been outflanked, wheeled the turn, the charge, and then went into this already overly flanked bit and then got absolutely surrounded immediately.
Yeah.
It was one of the most beautifully terrible tactical maneuvers I think I've ever seen. It's way up there with when we charged across the front of the... Do you remember when we charged across the front of the line of the entire Imperial forces?
Yeah.
And that went badly.
That went very badly.
It was up there.
Right.
It was beautiful in its truly terrible tactical nature.
So we should talk about the nature of the battle. It was, unfortunately, an honour battle.
It was an honour battle as well.
It was for the fate of Matilda Fisher, which is actually a big deal. So this was an important battle. One of the big problems with this battle, and I don't really... this is just... it was extremely hot, right? We're all wearing orc masks, right? And... basically, before the battle happens, there is let's just call it an honour discussion. So
they had a chin wag.
They had a chin wag before the battle, but the problem was, we were. I don't know where you were, but we were out in the sun.
I was just behind you on the right. I brought a mage staff with me, and I was a healer.
Yeah.
So I was like a non-com.
Yeah.
So I didn't actually do any fighting.
We
I was a
were
healer.
fully out in the sun.
Yeah, I was behind you. It was hot.
And it was like, to be honest with you, I think all of us, we could just feel the energy just going whoop, 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 whoop. And it was like, if we're going to do anything effective, it has to be fairly soon after the honour discussion was finally over. Which, by the way, I'm sure was awesome RP for all the people involved. It's just unfortunate that meant there was large quantities of people exposed in the sun waiting for that to conclude. There was a really cool herald as well. He was like, I think the adjudicator for the honour battle. He was like this. I don't know if you saw them.
They both had people on either side observing. So the Imperials had people in the Jotun line observing, and the Jotun had people in... Mate,
it's not for me. But anyway,
I have to get out of bed. I'm tired.
Yeah,
I'm a little hungover, and it's another honour battle.
Yeah,
like it was the biggest yawn fest.
This is where the benefits of the Girth Guard are, where this strategy of run, fight, die, and then respawn as a block. What it does mean is we all respawn as a block. So it's not like, you know how you sometimes have a matter where your unit's kind of broken apart and killed and you end up just having to go back and you pretty much never see a unit again and you spawn with some other group and then from then on you're kind of on your own. This is really a case of we respawn as a whole group, and there's a kind of a funny thing in the group of basically... There was Alpha Platoon, and it sort of progressed all the way up.
Then your Bravo
I think we
Platoon.
were on Echo at the beginning of this, and the idea is that Echo Platoon were looking for Delta, and it's always a question of like, you know, every platoon is looking for what happened to the previous platoon. So we went out as Echo, got absolutely annihilated. I did manage to... There was basically, when we were doing... I think we were opposite some winter markers on the other side.
It was all... Yeah.
There was a person with a really fucking big axe. And Chris, who leads our kind of force, had or one of the people who's kind of leading the force, had like a big chunky axe, and this other winter marker's axe was bigger. He was obviously compensating for something. So we charged in, and we were like, we're gonna take that... that overcompensator out. So I did manage to get that guy before we got absolutely munted. Sent roundly off the field.
I was a healer.
Yeah.
And like every time we tried to heal anyone, the Imperial forces were already moving through the enormous gaps we had left. Kept moving back. From my recollection, my next recollection is being the far end of the woods.
Yes, so
that's how badly we got whooped.
So basically the field battle was over extremely quickly.
Yep.
We all go and respawn in the woods. I would say it's safe to say that a lot of people were gassed already at this point, because we had been standing in the sun. And it's important to say, before the Imperials even turn up, we've been out there in the sun for quite a while, before they've even taken the field.
I saw people healing up Imperials, handing them back. It was
all classic honor stuff, but
it was like a battle on training wheels. It was it was the we get pushed all the way back to this fort. Okay, we're in the fort. The Imperials come along. They're starting to fight. All the medics that are surviving head out the back, and then a certain group of marchers, heavily armed, come crashing through the bushes behind us.
That's not good.
And we start yelling. We're not combatants. We're healers.
Yeah.
And I decide I'm just going to fuck with them. So I'm like getting right up at them. I'm like rushing towards them and yelling non-com. We're healers. We're healers. And then they're like, we want to get through. And I'm kind of standing in their way, and a few other people are. And then they're like, enough of this. And they just start hacking their way through. And then there's like a representative going, no, these are healers. They're not supposed to be attacked. And then they have to heal the people up. And at this stage, I'm like, okay, now I see the interest in the battle. It's to be someone that shouldn't be killed, but also to be very annoying. So literally, I'm like always standing in the way of Imperials advancing, and they literally just butcher everyone that is a non-com.
Of course, because the Imperials are awful.
And like it's like they murder the warriors, and they realise some people are non-combatants, and they heal them, and they're yelling at them. And there's like a weird like what's that movie about the US embassy where they all shoot at the fucking protesters? Rules of Engagement.
Right. Okay.
It was very much a rules of engagement type situation.
Okay. All right.
I think they healed up all the healers, but yeah, I don't know. Do you have any highlights from that battle?
Yes, actually, I do. So after Echo got lost, I was asked, and I was not prepared for this, seeing I have just joined the Girth Guard, if I would like to lead out Foxtrot. So as sergeant of the Foxtrot platoon, I decided that all the others were just a bunch of posers, right? Foxtrot was where it's at, right? We're the real deal, right?
The elite.
The elite, the crack force, okay, of the Girth Guard. We are the girthiest,
Yeah.
right? So I decided I'm going to lead my force in a 3-column line, basically towards where the gate where they're getting ready to push through the Imperials. The idea being that we will charge basically as 3 columns into the line.
And you had told people to go into 3 columns.
Yes, that part had happened. But what I meant to do, and actually completely lost my head and didn't do, was actually like get us all to advance and then at close range charge. Instead, what I did was I charged immediately. So we get close and I just went. Okay, as a one person, as Sergeant Foxtrot, I just run. I remember, I'm assuming the entire formation is directly behind me. I like jump over a thing, slip through a line, and I'm there in front of the Imperial forces. And then I get stabbed to shit immediately. I remember I fell down, I looked over, I looked back, and I saw the people of Foxtrot platoon looking, and then pointing at me and being like, "Oh, there he is!" And then they all came charging in. It was hilarious. We got wiped out again. Yeah. It was just very, very funny to have that moment of like, oh my gosh, Foxtrot platoon was of all the people, Sergeant Foxtrot was the poser, right? So we head off, and we basically then we're part of course, after F is G. Well, G must surely be the girthiest number. So Girth Squad is like the crack elite people of the Girth Squad. To sum it up, Girth Squad probably had the shortest and sweetest action of the whole battle. We really... it wasn't actually... I think this time we actually did do the whole advance and order and charge and hit. One of the problems we had was there was just... Basically, the force had, as I said, no attacking options. It was all stay with me's and relentlesses, which is all sustaining kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Which encourages, obviously, line fighting, encourages sustained combats, it encourages long-winded engagements, which ain't how we roll. We roll for like get in and just hit and kill, and until they're dead or we're dead. Having said that, I think this is a failing of us slightly as well. I think if we are in that situation again, we should maybe do like a wave system of some, a wave goes in, then another wave comes in. Stay with me is the people who came down, and basically try and keep it rolling. But I think as an enemy contingent across the whole field, I think a lot of the force felt the fact there was no cleaves on the field, there was no real strike downs or anything like that in wide use. There was none of these offensive powers to actually break up lines and do things.
I don't know how many losses we had. I can't imagine from 2,000 people heading on a battlefield.
Yeah.
That the losses were too heavy.
No. We got absolutely rolled over. I actually had a really good time. The good thing, especially in the heat, actually, and just playing with all of the people from Black Scar and the Girth Guard was just hilarious. Having these very short and sweet engagements was actually a lot of fun. So I actually did have a good battle. It's just the nature of those kind of conflicts. Sometimes you don't get all of the things, and it was fine. It was fine. Afterwards, we all returned to standing. We go over. There was like basically really a lot of it that I remember was like about the losses and like the cold sun and stuff. Yeah. And this is where you were really kind of kicking in.
I spoke about. I was like, I told the story about how one of the fawns had come to me and told me about the battle.
Yeah.
The
skirmish.
The skirmish. How they had lost like 7 or 8 people, whatever it was. And I had said, like, I said to the standing, I was like, and I said to them, I'll prefer to lose 50 fawns
yeah.
and keep the trots.
Yeah.
And I looked into his eyes and I knew that they had tried their best.
Yeah.
And like, I'm so sorry for all of your losses.
Yeah. And
we will come back, and it's a heavy day. And I was like, just kind of bummed.
Yeah.
It was like,
I think that was a vibe, like the which is cool actually. I do actually quite like the vibe that the Cold Sun give us, which is like they are scary shit, right?
Hey, I thought it was really good, and I liked the fact it was just like to show like, hey, Navarre, we're hurting right now, but we're gonna come back and we're gonna fight them and we're gonna win. Like it's gonna cost us a lot, but we're gonna do it. Before then, Bungle was like, hey, I got some Cuban cigars. And I was like, I'll smoke a Cuban cigar.
Yeah.
So I'm smoking it, and I was just like, so I was puffing away a Cuban cigar, which was absolutely divine. I'm not really a cigar guy, but like, these Cubans are absolutely phenomenal. Like, I'm into it. I decided that smoking a cigar at standing after taking a lot of losses probably isn't a good look for a senator to have.
No, actually, thinking about the PR, that doesn't.
It's not great, is it?
No.
So I
did you pocket
they have
that?
Little tubes.
Yeah.
I put it in the tube.
Yeah.
And I saved it for later.
So I could for later when the spat lady sings, kind of thing.
So I could head to the throne vote.
Yes. So after standing, obviously, I knew it was the throne vote too.
Yeah.
I start to mosey my way down. I'll give you my perspective of things, but I think obviously we should really focus on you. So I'm basically, bear in mind, I kind of know the plan. I know what you have schemed up. And when I walk in, the throne vote is a couple deep at this stage. There's been a couple of rounds of voting.
They moved it. Well, they moved the vote from Senate to this other place.
Yes.
And I was like, a lot of my plan involved having people there to yell and heckle.
Yes.
And we're in a tent.
Yes.
And it's a change of location.
Yes.
I don't have my poet to sing a song.
Yeah.
I don't have the band to show up to harass people.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is tough.
Yeah.
You know?
So, talk me through the beginning, actually, first, because I missed the very first few bits of the voting process.
So they clean out the lines of where senators should be and where non-senators should be. We head out there, standing in front of everyone, in a tent, and the candidates come out. They each seem to get nominated. And I'm going to talk about 3 candidates specifically here, because there are key players, and they are Kiara from Brass Coast, a seasoned veteran senator who is extremely capable. We have Claude, Dornish, inspirational, very strong-willed, has a good track record of getting stuff done. My personal candidate, I also like Kiara. And then a third candidate from Verushka called Vesna, also known as Sparrow. Okay? She is a strong-willed, iconic powerful figure within this whole entire thing. Okay, and there's a couple more.
Yeah.
Each of them do their speeches. I have to say, each of the people that gave speeches that day were very, very good.
Yeah.
In fact, it was... there was electric in the air.
Yeah.
Like, you could
there
feel
really was. Like,
there was... And people were really bringing their A game. So, the first vote happened, which is literally all the senators stand in front of the candidate that they like. Claude has a majority. Okay? No overall majority.
Yeah.
And this, ladies
Can
and
you
gentlemen...
explain, actually, just before we get on, so people who understand the situation of what is required, what is the, as far as I understand, the number of 24 is...
24 is 2/3 majority of the Senate.
Yeah, has to decide for it to go
has
through.
to be 2/3 or there is, or it doesn't carry. Now, the way the voting works is the candidates come out, they all have to be nominated, they do a speech, and then we stand in front of them. There is no more discussion at that stage, but once a vote happens, in this case, Claude had the majority, but
didn't have 24.
Then senators are invited to change their vote if they would like to change their vote.
Yeah.
And this is where
your plan hatches up.
My cunning plan, which is idiotic or genius. You decide.
Mad genius, I would say.
If any senators move,
a new vote is initiated.
Yeah.
And
another vote happens.
Yeah.
I move over to Chiara. Okay?
Yeah. Were you the only person who moved at this point, or did other people move?
No. At this stage, there's a lot of movement.
Right.
Movement's happening. Then we are asked to vote again. I move again.
Yeah.
And then things are starting to solidify. Okay? There's like a... and bear in mind, like, crowd are yelling.
Yeah.
Make a decision. I know there are people in the crowd, like yourself, who are whispering stuff in the crowd.
I'm walking around the crowd. I'll just do my bit very briefly. I actually came in, I think, on like the third or fourth vote. When you're talking about the electric energy, when the tent whooshes open and I walk in, I am a little bit ridiculous. I kind of like pose, walk in, of course, and I'm like, but the air is electric, and I walk in as votes are counted. Numbers are interesting. There's obviously play at hand, and the numbers are, I can't remember. I think I came in and one of the candidates had 22, something like that. It was quite high. There was obviously play at hand, and it, so people were vested, right? It wasn't one of these things where it was like the numbers are like 10, and therefore nobody's close. It's actually
Vesna.
Yeah,
I think third vote. I stood behind Vesna, and there was a vote, and it got to like 22, 23, and there was like a muttering of like, "Oh my god, we've done it!" And it was just like, no, it hadn't been done.
Yeah,
and I carried on moving.
Yes, so this comes a little bit later. So after this was actually right. This was about what you're talking about. Is actually I think the fifth or sixth vote.
Yeah,
it was quite late.
So there were.
So I came in about third or fourth. At this stage, I'm walking around the crowd and I'm like just saying to random people, "You'll notice that the Senator for Hikinia moves every time." And then people are like, "And who's that?" And I like point at you and like, the one wearing your clothes, all this kind of stuff. I'm literally just walking around saying that to the crowd. Like various, just little whispers in individuals' ears, right? Just random people, right? Just letting people seeding it so certain people know that there is a game taking place, that there is a play.
Oh, by the way, this story is from my point of view.
Yes.
There are many games.
Yes, of course there are.
Many games being played.
Yeah, there's
like
trading.
At one stage, the the March's senators, all of them,
Yeah.
linked hands
Yeah.
and moved.
Yeah.
And that was like a huge moment.
Yeah.
It was like, oh my god, like this is things like, and I was like, I honestly, dude, I was like, I think I'm right. Like, I think I'm right.
Yeah.
And then to see the pieces move on the board.
It was exciting because there was this moment where, like, bear in mind, there's some things we can't say here because they're things that other people have said, and it's really for them to tell their own things. But there's a lot of instances where attention was being slowly drawn to the fact that there was actions like what you were taking place.
There were at least 2, if not 3, where nobody voted, nobody moved, apart from me.
Yes.
And I knew this.
Yes.
And I was like, I know this is my right as a senator to do said thing. And I could hear the murmurings going on in the crowd.
So that's... I'm fairly confident that moment is basically when I'm like that sort of plays into when I'm doing my whole thing of walking around, and I think there are some other people who are whispering this out.
Other people,
and people I don't even know, by the way, who have worked this out and who are talking. Like, I heard people talking about you who I had no interaction with, but also somebody from the civil service. This is where it gets really spicy. So right towards the end, we're talking about the 6th.
This is the 7th vote.
Yeah, well, I think after the end of the 6th vote, we get it to 23. Everybody cheers because they think that's the right number. The person from the Civil Senate says, obviously people can't count, 24 is the required number. Mm-hmm. And then I think, or was that the 5th vote? And then people are invited to move one more time and we still don't get the right number because you moved again.
Yeah.
Then the civil service person says, it has been said that one of the senators, doesn't actually name anybody, one of the senators is moving every time. If this persists, then...
we'll have to call an end to the vote.
Right, which is... I don't even know if that's constitutional. It's very spicy.
It's very spicy at this stage.
Yes.
And then... so I know my goose is cooked at this stage. It's 23 for Vesna. And then a brass co-senator walks over in tears.
Yes.
And I can hear her say, I'm free of my contract. I've been freed of my contract. And then the vote...
the crowd actually called out to the civil senate person who was, I think, approaching the state where they were going to call things. And there's a lot of stuff going on. I don't know how much you even want to say about your situation at this point, but the crowd were actually calling out, someone's moved, like, and then they did a recount, and the number 24 came back. It was a crazy moment, absolutely insane.
I tried to stay as po-faced as possible.
You were fucking I was surprised. I was like, you know, apoplectic at the back.
I was like, just keep moving, stick to the plan. It's gonna shift. And when that senator moved and the 24 vote came in and everyone erupted, it was fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And bear in mind, like, all of my close crew, like you, a few other people in the crowd, I could see them in my eye line.
I was trying to get your attention, but I knew you were playing it so cool, dude, because I was, like, freaking out on the side, because this is, like... Look, from my perspective, and I know, like, from my perspective, just talking as somebody who doesn't have huge experience, isn't steeped in the game, anything like that, my perspective, I think it's one of the biggest plays of all time in the game. Simply because if you look at it, and people can say I'm wrong, whatever... There have only been 2 thrones ever elected in the time that players have been on the field, right? Lisabetta was voted in with a large number, obviously came through, won. But this is a play that was at least partly responsible for there being a second throne. It has to go down as one of the biggest, most influential plays regardless of if it's a good or bad play, by the way, one of the biggest and most influential plays in the history of the game. An outrageous play.
It was like the release of... And bear in mind, I know there were certain bodies in the Empire that were possibly going to revoke my title.
Immediately after it was announced, well, firstly, yes, there were people looking to actually remove you as a senator, so you couldn't do this. In fact, this was basically going to happen unless positions moved at the very last minute.
Yes.
You were
so to the wire.
I don't think you were we could see from the crowd's perspective. I don't know how clearly you could see. We could see people moving, basically getting ready to end this, right? That's why the crowd were calling out, there's been movement, right? It was crazy. And then you had, this just upswell of just, wow, we actually, did it, right?
It's done.
Yeah. And,
By the way, there was also thunder and fucking lightning happening at this stage.
A storm's moving in.
So, the first throne vote, there was a flock of geese or something flew over, and at this point, the heavens opened, and there was thunder and lightning, and it was dude, that feeling in that room was...
Incredible. Yeah. And the thing was, the drama was just so intense. The civil service person said, there is still a chance, while this has gone through, there is still a chance this can be revoked. I think it was either Synod who had the power to basically nullify it. Yeah, they had a very, very small period of time.
The National Assembly have to raise something to... basically, there was something done in Synod where they need to be a virtuous candidate, and that vote needs to happen before the next Senate session.
Yeah,
I heard mixed reports. I heard that someone had put it through and squashed it, or it's still open.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It almost doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. It literally doesn't matter
because it's a fantastic game anyway.
Well, dude, watching Vesna, and that moment, fuck. And bear in mind,
she's probably the third place candidate. Is that a fair statement to make?
I would say,
in terms of initial minorities of people,
I don't know. I have thoughts on this. Kiara and Claude, were outrageously good candidates.
The reality is, though, if either one had stood behind the other, it would be over.
Agreed.
And that couldn't be done for whatever reason. Politically, there wasn't the will to do that. And in that vacuum, that's what happens.
I can't remember who said it to me, but they were like... It was the first time where I felt like I had actually had order over Senate.
Yeah.
Where someone said to me, they were all playing checkers and you were playing chess. And it was one of those, because
I had this
if it hadn't worked, I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
It, literally, if that Brasco Centre hadn't have moved, I would be ridiculous.
Yeah.
But that last final move when the civil service and all the other political bodies that could stop me, that move.
I don't think people understand how massive it is. I mean, it's not just because I'm your mate. It's just the simple reality of it. It's a huge move, a huge play. The alignment of things that have to be in place and the work that has to be done to actually make sure that happens. And what it actually speaks of is, in the game of Empire, there are a lot of numbers that people play with. Is how I think of it, right? There are a lot of resources and money and votes and all these kind of things that matter. And these are all systems that people tinker with and are micromanaging and playing with in the background. What makes it particularly strong play was you looked at the actual system the big numbers and was like, this is the way the voting body works, and in a sense, how it can be exploited. There is this mechanism for if a senator moves, the vote persists. And there is a way, like a filibuster, like gerrymandering, like all of these things that exist in politics, that the political game can be gamed, and this is the first time someone has done that with the effect of ensuring that a throne has been voted into a position. It's a huge play. I can't, like, it's my perspective, but it's a ginormous play. It's actually even a constitutional potentially changing play. It's the kind of thing where the powers may even have to be brought in to ensure it could never happen again. I don't know. It's that kind of play where this is the first time it's been done to this extent of impact that makes it so grand as a move. Again, it's not just because I'm your mate. That's generally how I feel. I think it's a ginormous play. Hats off to you, dude.
Afterwards, Okay, so we had... After the vote, we had a brief recess. We had our Senate session for the time we had left. War with the Grendel, by the way. Big surprise. We made war with the Grendel.
It's bad.
No, it could be good. Like, we don't know. There's lots of things. But I left Senate, and bear in mind, like, because I'm on the Senate floor, no one's running me up and and slapping me on the back and saying, "Well done, Gellert."
Yeah.
People are saying, Eli has said to me, "Are you, like, during the vote, was like, are you moving every time?" I'm like, I can't talk about it. Like, I don't want to, I'm just voting like you are, Yeah. And it was like, but people knew that I had cotton onto it. But then afterwards, I was outside Senate, and I had the cigar, the half-smoked cigar in my thing. I pulled the cigar out, put it in my mouth, and I smoked it, and I was completely by myself. And there was no, like, well done, Gellert. There was none of this. And I just puffed on that fucking cigar, and it was like, I felt like
credit roll music. Shit.
A-team shit. Like, I love it when a plan comes together. Like, it was just...
It's so spicy. Like, there's things we probably can't really talk about, but some of the people coming up to you after everything, like almost an OC, really.
Very much OC.
Yeah, OC. Like, people coming up to you saying...
The walls were around, the daggers were out. My political career was about to be absolutely nuclearified.
It's crazy, dude.
It's so... And bear in mind, like, I talked about, like, and this is one thing I haven't talked about while we've been talking about the episodes this year was, and I spoke to Simon about this, who plays Leafy, when we're talking. I'm like, I want to be the throne maker.
Yeah.
I want to be the throne maker.
Yeah.
And he was like, like, people in the Senate don't think about things that way. And I'm like, I want to be the guy that puts the motion through, filibusters it, and makes it happen.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do. And I am genuinely staggered that my ridiculous, silly, almost immature movements managed to make this happen. And dude, I left.
Yeah.
I walked back and I saw Vesna being welcomed by Verushka.
Some lovely photos, by the way. Anybody who gets a chance to look at, I think some of the imagery coming in, it's so wholesome.
I was stood about 50 yards away.
Yeah.
And I was still sucking on the end of my stogie.
Yeah.
And I just watched it.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I was like,
notice me, senpai kind of shit.
It wasn't like none of that. It was just like, my job is done.
Yeah.
And it's like, it felt so good to be like, man, I made a thing. A thing has happened.
It's a huge play. A huge play. I don't know how you'll ever unless you ran for the throne yourself, ever make a bigger play.
I don't think I need to. And I think it's like... but bear in mind, I think it's like... I messaged both Kiara and Claude's player. I haven't messaged Vesna because I don't feel I want to... And this is really important as well. Her victory...
Yeah,
is her victory.
100%.
Like,
by the way, yeah, that's very important.
Yeah, like massively. I think like her victory is hers, and that's through her hard work and all the stuff that's going on.
People, bear in mind, people literally had to move to her position. Yeah, and they would not do so
the
unless
Senate
she was.
Spoke. Like you can be like, oh, fucking Gellert is responsible. Blah blah blah. Whatever. That's fine. That's game. But like. She did it. Mm-hmm. She did it.
Yeah, a massive achievement, by the way. Only the second throne.
Dude, I messaged Kiara and Claude after the vote, and I was just like, "How you doing?
Yeah,
like, are you okay? Like, because that's a big.
It's a huge thing. Yeah, yeah.
It's like everyone involved was thinking about it all the time.
Yeah,
it's a big emotional thing, and it's like. Both of them, when I spoke to them, were like bouncing back and being really strong. And I'm like, this is why they were such good candidates in the first place. Is that their political entity isn't over because they didn't get voted into the throne.
Yeah,
and now the pressure is on Vesna effectively, but I also think it's like all of its game.
Yeah, dude,
all of its game,
everything, every aspect of it, and also I think there's this. Because the vote is 24, it's not like it's 30 or something like that. The vote is 24, and a very last minute, end of the line, 24. It's one of those votes that puts the whole thing under constant scrutiny. You know what I mean? It's like she's going to have to do the things, or people are going to start.
Hey,
you know what I mean? Like,
let me put it this way: there are some senators out there, that are like. Man, if you didn't want Vesna to be your throne, then there should have been manoeuvring before then. Yeah. And I think it's like I love being the new blood in Senate. I love being the kind of new attitude towards what politics should be.
Yeah, it's
like dude, I couldn't be happier. If I get voted out in E1, by the way, if another candidate comes along and the people of Virginia are like, we don't want Gellert Ashbourne to be our representative. Fucking fair play.
Yeah,
I have absolutely peaked.
Yeah,
like Gellert has achieved
it's
everything he wants to at this stage.
It's so massive, dude. What play? It was a phenomenal way to end the event.
And we get to go into the long dark with the at least the notion of having a throne.
Yeah, and bear in mind, even if it is revoked or whatever, at this stage it doesn't actually matter because the move was made. There will be politics still to play. Even if it is revoked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a huge thing. To revoke it after achieving a 24 is a big thing.
I also think it's like Gellert has served the Empire.
Yeah.
Like,
in his eyes especially, right?
Because he believes in the process.
Yeah. You're playing the character honestly.
And therefore 24 votes for a throne
is the number. We have deemed that as the number.
That is the number, and that is how things are done.
I completely agree. It's phenomenal, dude. Ah, man, It was one of those moments where it was just like, I was calling out to you on the Senate floor, right? It felt like that moment of like your sports team has just won the Super Bowl or the Premier League title, and you know the player on the field, and you're calling out to them, right? And you're in your own thing, and after a certain point,
I didn't hear anything. By the way,
and I'm like, fair play. It really was truly your moment. You bossed it. Your composure, your skill, and I think your reading of the situation. There was a moment on, I think, the 5th or 6th vote, again, people can correct us on the numbers, when it got to 23, obviously everybody cheered, and then you moved the other way, which obviously put it down to 22.
Yeah.
And then you moved back for the final thing to actually flip it to 24, with that other person who moved.
That was the
final move.
That was the hardest vote.
Because you had this thing of like, do I stay and hope someone comes over, or do I go? And it's you just played it magnificently.
That was like, I'm sure there's some mathematicians out there that can work out like the mechanics of movement of people and how this kind of weird betting system works.
But you hit this weird stage where it doesn't become... This is where poker enters, where there is the mathematically correct play, and there is the playing of the... There's the playing of the cards and there's the playing of the players, right? And you played the players, in my opinion, and I was so impressed. The game for me was peak. It was so fun walking around Senate. I'm almost embarrassed to talk about the rest of my game from now on. I will, because it's very personal to me.
Yeah.
But it's impossible for me to overstate how massive this moment was and how proud I was of you and everything you'd achieved. It is a ginormous play, and I don't think anyone will convince me that it isn't one of the biggest plays of all time in the game.
I think it's also important to mention, we do a podcast.
Yeah.
This is much more reach than a lot of players get.
Yeah.
It's very much our opinion.
Yes. Hugely. We try and be as honest as we can in this as well, because we want to give you guys as much of an honest opinion of how we think and feel. But that doesn't mean it's true. That doesn't mean it's actually in any way based in any kind of fact. We're functionally idiots.
Yeah.
Everything we say is just subjective.
For us,
yes, this is ginormous.
For us, and it's like for the people around me, it meant the world.
Yes,
and it was like it wasn't just me.
Yeah,
moving around.
Yeah,
I could.
You've put a lot of time into this, and things you probably can't even talk about.
But it was also like the kind of sense of like, I certainly wasn't doing it by myself out there.
Yeah. Oh, dude, there's a lot of plays going on.
It was the whole team.
Yeah.
And people that have been like, that's a ridiculous idea.
Yeah.
And then to be like, but no, we're gonna fucking believe in this. Yeah. And then for it to happen,
having players come up to you afterwards and down to, like out of character and be like, I won't mention names, but to basically be like, have that moment of realizing that they were potentially outplayed, was, or in that moment, recognizing what they could have done and what they should have done, and all of those kind of things, you know, like, is peak game. Because it's like, it really speaks to, as again, when I'm saying that whole thing of like, there's the playing of the little numbers and there's the playing of the big numbers. There's a playing of the idea of recognising the political system and bringing in the filibuster or the gerrymandering or any of those kind of things.
Is Gellert a populist idiot?
Dude, he's probably
or is he a political genius?
It was like it almost doesn't matter. It almost doesn't matter. He's changed like so much. I'm going to go into actually weirdly some very personal stuff from, and this is where our games again, and I'm constantly struck by this, how different our games are. You are having, in your sense, a very grand, if you like, culmination of a lot of effort, a lot of time. Your entire year's effort has paid off. I felt I actually got something quite similar, but with my game, because I returned to camp. We're in proper pack down at this stage. We're basically on the fringes of OC. We're chatting about you, how proud we are of you, all this kind of stuff. I don't think you're even there. I think you're bigwigging at this point. Gaius produces my bow, which he has had hallowed to loyalty. It's difficult to state how massive and emotionally like huge that was to Talis. Because I've basically been playing this whole thing. The whole point of the character, as I view it, and again, this is very personal of how I view it, is the character is designed to be an idea of you're meant to question, like in a sense, his loyalty is questioned because of how he is. Like he isn't a typical Navari, right? He dresses a bit weird. He acts a bit differently. All of the outward stuff makes you question who he is and his loyalty to the nation. He's been incited 3 times on loyalty. But I also, the idea is, the way I play Talis is, it's not just those 3 times. All his life he has been questioned on loyalty because he is different, right? That is the story of Talis. And I a lot of the emotional play of what it is to be the character is to be this idea of almost the recognition of those kind of things within yourself that feel like you are the other and you don't get you are questioned and your place in the group is questioned, right? That's actually the story that is kind of it kicking around in my head about how I think about it in super broad strokes. But I never really wanted to do it where like I actually stated outright that is what it is. So to have like Bung like recognise that actually what pride's the obvious thing. The pride is the obvious virtue that Talis is associated with, but it's the loyalty that is actually the thing that means the most to him. To have someone like hallow his bow to loyalty was huge, absolutely ginormous. What a reward for all of the play I put in. It's hard to... I get emotional talking about it because it's like... It's literally the point of the character. So I was like, having the bow hallowed to pride... to hallow to loyalty was so good. I'm buzzing at that point. We're sitting there in the rain underneath the awning. Hands me the bow. We kind of have some like RP. It was really nice, really touching, sweet. Literally just like me, Orion, some other sort of friends there, just in a very small, intimate moment. Just like, this is like a really cool thing for the character, for me, and I get to sing my song the way I wanted to sing it, which is like this whole song about like the actual story, if you like, of Talis. It was really good to do. So nice to actually get to sing it properly, talk the whole, like sing the whole thing all the way through, not stumble over the lines, do it raw as well because it was very emotional to do it. And everyone sort of sit there and join in and stuff. It was a really, really nice moment. And then afterwards, the rain kind of died down, and I'm like, it's a nice moment to kind of walk around at that stage and go and like touch base with a few people in the nation and be like, my bow's been hallowed to loyalty. Like, this is a huge thing for me. Like, and like to have, like to at that stage I can start to talk about it. And it was really nice to have people like embrace that element of the story. It's hard to really say, but it was a really, really personally culminating part of my own storyline. I love these ideas of like sort of broad sweeping character narratives and things, and to have it sort of culminate in this way was fantastic. So I had a great time. I got to speak to Anwin and Kaylee and Demelzo and Georg, a whole bunch of different people, and just like touch base on like, it's been a hell of a year. I've gone through all sorts of different story sort of stuff. There's a lot happened for Talis, a lot. It's been a big year for me, like in play, but also as a person. It's been a huge year. The RP has been insane, and it's all thanks to the nation. Like the way the nation has conducted itself and the way the players have conducted themselves around it, I think has just been so fantastic.
Don't you think it's interesting how we started this little journey in like 2018?
Yeah.
and it's like we've grown as people. The game of Empire has changed. We've changed.
Yeah.
It's been illustrative. It's been life affirming.
Mm-hmm.
It's been challenging.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know.
It's been rewarding, dude. That's what it's really been.
I think it's like there's been a couple of things happening behind the scenes,
Yeah.
which have been quite rough.
Yeah.
But like, I hope I get to play Empire again,
Yeah.
and I hope we get to keep role playing in games that we love,
Yeah.
and
Exploring those characters and exploring those characters with the benefit of getting to enjoy all of the wonderful other characters around us and the stories to be told.
It's an absolute privilege
Yeah.
to meet the people we've met,
Yeah.
to learn the lessons we've learned,
Yeah.
to grow as we have.
Yeah.
It's so valuable
Yeah.
to us as people, right?
I don't know how you like. There's something like Empire. Often there's ebbs and flows of how I feel about it as a game. I'm very fortunate. I really enjoy who I get to play, who I get to play with. But there's something very special about it because of the scale of it and also the intimacy of it.
I think I firmly trust in Claire Evans
Yeah.
as being a figurehead for the company to move on to whatever they're going to do next.
Yeah.
I think, like, I don't know.
It's
Anyway.
fantastic, dude.
Let's
roll them dice.
It's a 1, Ian,
Ooh.
which is one of our new fellas. Which
It is. It is actually Ralph, who plays Rat. Thank you so much. And by the
Ralph
way,
Wellington.
that RP we got to share after the Corpse Glade was fucking great. So thank you so much. And yeah, thank you for being just part of my game. You're a phenomenal player.
I think like we're gonna like. We were planning on releasing a few roleplay games that we've been playing recently. Yeah. We have recently acquired a editor.
Makes things a lot easier.
Chris.
Yeah.
We may well move that into its own thing, I think, potentially.
We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah.
All of this is...
We've got
Yeah.
different things happening.
Yeah. Irons are in the fire.
Many irons. I'm going to a couple of European LARPs in the new year.
What? Because you've got... is it Legion that you're
Legion.
going to? Which is like... you're hiking every day or something, engaging in some Second World War craziness.
We'll talk about that.
Sounds bonkers to me. You've also got a LARP in Scandinavia, which is...
Potentially. We'll see.
Yeah, that sounds bonkers.
We love the hobby.
Yeah.
We love the community.
Yeah. I hope the people listening can understand that we love everybody and we do our best in all the things we do, and it's just phenomenal. The way it's changed our lives is hard to even express. Like,
yeah, we're also obviously, like, if you're only listening to the Empire episodes, we're gonna do a raffle at Christmas time.
Yeah.
December 1st.
Yeah.
Go and find us on Facebook.
Yeah.
We'll release an episode around Christmas time, but you're going to get some sweet, sweet loots.
Yeah.
You're going to raise some money for charity.
Yeah.
It's going to be baller.
Yeah. And there might just be a silly little video on its way, which I can't wait for.
So good.
I can't wait for it.
But yeah. Cool. Ian, what do you want to close out with?
Let's just stick with the classic. Strength to the Empire.
Strength to the